I think so.
You do at 80.
Yeah, I think, part of this was Bitcoin seasonally was just not going to be attractive until after March ends. And now we're finally exiting March. And so I think not only is the calendar looking better, but as you're saying, the Fed and central banks are easing, QT's ending. I think that with positive Washington sort of tailwinds means I think Bitcoin can do well to the end of the year.
While the market stumbles through headlines about tariffs, inflation, and Fed policy, Tom Lee is sending out a very different message. Bitcoin may have just bottomed, and the conditions are lining up for a breakout. Lee, known for calling major crypto moves in the past, believes we're about to see a powerful shift. Not next year, not months from now, but imminently. Behind the scenes, sentiment is quietly flipping, technicals are firming up, and a potent mix of macro factors is taking shape. And the most overlooked signal? Time itself, because according to Lee, seasonality is now flipping in Bitcoin's favor.
Yeah, I mean, both. I mean, obviously it doesn't feel this way because over the weekend futures came under pressure, but we know markets are really oversold. We know that investors have had a lot of de-risking. And this week, I think into April 2nd, investors have three things on their minds. One is they just don't know what the tariffs look like. They don't know if it's going to damage the economy. And I think third, many are just a little terrified of the policies of the White House. But post-Wednesday, I think markets are going to have some visibility, and that allows us to take some of the selling pressure off. So, yes, I think it's possible that instead of us breaking down here and seeing markets under further pressure, we're actually got the right pieces for a bottom.
When fear is at its peak, markets tend to turn. Lee's focus on April 2nd isn't arbitrary. It's when multiple uncertainties begin to resolve, starting with tariff clarity. Markets crave visibility, and when that arrives, the risk on sentiment can quickly return. According to Lee, the current environment is full of pent-up potential, and it's not just the broader stock market he's watching. Bitcoin, often a leading indicator of investor confidence, may already be preparing for liftoff.
Bitcoin's testing recent near-term lows, I guess, again. It's been under 80. It's not quite there yet. It definitely is a risk-off trade, and when the NASDAQ goes down, Bitcoin seems to go down. But it also really likes the idea of more Fed rate cuts or the Fed being more lenient. So if we get that on Friday, is this a decent time to be stacking?
Bitcoin has been mirroring broader risk sentiment, but its reaction to macro shifts is far more accelerated. When markets sense rate cuts, Bitcoin doesn't just recover, it surges. With QT ending and the Fed likely leaning dovish, crypto could catch a tailwind stronger than most are prepared for. And the tailwinds don't stop with the Fed. Political shifts may also play a major role in this new Bitcoin narrative.
Part of the reason we have stayed constructive on Bitcoin is the price is following closely the prior halving cycles. The halving cycle, for your viewers, is when the block reward gets cut in half. That happened earlier this year. So there's a reduction in new supply. And the sweet spot of that price gain as supply is cut starts to happen towards the end of this year and then into next year. And I think that has supported why we expected Bitcoin to be 100,000. And over the next 12 months, I think something over 250,000 is possible, but maybe highly probable based on just this following this price cycle.
It's not just macro easing and market mechanics. It's also Bitcoin's own internal clock. The halving cycle has consistently driven price expansion in the past, and we've just entered the sweet spot. Lee sees not just recovery, but expansion. 100K as a baseline, 250K as a high probability target. But there's another layer to this thesis. What happens when governments stop fearing Bitcoin and start embracing it?
The Second reason I think Bitcoin has maybe more upside than that is because the new administration has run on a pro-Bitcoin platform. And I think that the possibility of the U.S. not only legitimizing Bitcoin, but making it a strategic reserve asset, I think raises what would be the possible price scenarios for Bitcoin. Because if the U.S. government, as they intend, ultimately gets to 1 million Bitcoin, they'll be the largest holder of Bitcoin in the world. And they'd exert enormous positive influence on legitimizing Bitcoin.
If the U.S. begins accumulating Bitcoin as a strategic asset, the demand shock would be unprecedented. This kind of institutional and government backing could send Bitcoin into an entirely new price regime. Add to that the increasing dominance of the dollar through stablecoin legislation, and the long-term case only grows stronger.
I think we have a lot of what I would call spooled energy. Investors can't stay this bearish. The VIX can't stay this anxious. There is a lot of firepower and dry powder on the sidelines, and I think businesses can't stay cautious forever. I mean, once they know the ground rules, I think they're going to actually start making decisions.
This is the heartbeat of Tom Lee's thesis. There's too much dry powder, too much readiness, and too many reasons for markets to move higher. Bitcoin may be volatile, but it's also the fastest to reprice when sentiment turns. The energy is there. It's just waiting for release.
So I think that the odds of a V-shaped recovery in stocks that come after April 2 is just extremely high because we've already sequenced a lot of the panic that people saw in 2018. I think it's already taken place.
So let's take a moment to do a little recap. What did we learn? According to Tom Lee, the case for a Bitcoin breakout isn't just plausible, it's building like a pressure cooker. From oversold conditions and easing Fed policy to a favorable halving cycle and even potential institutional adoption from Washington, the ingredients are all there. He sees April 2nd as the key pivot point, after which clarity and confidence return to the market. And as sentiment shifts, Bitcoin, with its supply cuts, momentum history, and macro sensitivity, could be the first to explode.
I think it's still 150 or higher as possible. Okay. I know it doesn't feel like it, but once we get through this tariff and that agenda around tariffs, markets can look forward to things that could be positive.
Do you think Bitcoin just bottomed? Are we about to witness the start of a historic rally? Or are there still surprises around the corner? Let us know what you think in the comments down below. And as always, thanks for watching.